Love is in the Air by Manhattanite. Read by M4PW. Chapter 3. The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Myka took one last look over her notes as she sat at the large round table in the oversized ballroom at the Ritz Hotel in Los Angeles. The gesture was more to calm her nerves than to refresh her eidetic memory, which, by its definition, needed no such thing. She took a sip from the goblet of iced water on the table and smiled as people took their seats next to her. There were 3 speakers at the morning symposium, and Myka was scheduled to go third. "We saved the best for last," the moderator told her. Myka's butterflies had more to do with the topic of her talk than speaking in front of the large room of lawyers. Simply put, corporate transparency, or the practice of a company to disclose its financial and operational information openly, was not a popular topic. Too often a company could hide whatever information it wanted in creative accounting, or by simply not making it public. It could result in mismanagement, corruption, environmental damage, health and safety problems, economic instability, and human rights violations. All of these were issues that Myka wanted to champion against. Myka felt Wells Corp was the model for success in maintaining transparency. Held to the strictest measures in each area, Wells Corp excelled at disclosure. Most companies agreed it was an important issue, but few were willing to make sure that it became a standard practice. Myka was hoping to change that with her speech. She sat there waiting her turn when she remembered what a favorite law professor told her. He was seemingly very tough on her in her first year at law school, more so on her, it seemed, than anyone else in the class. Finally, Myka gathered up her nerve to tell him that she felt he had been unreasonably hard on her in grading a mock trial in which she had participated. Her voice was shaky as she confronted the man she respected. She anticipated hearing his brilliant response, his defense, but all he said was, "I'm glad you finally noticed, Baring. It took you long enough." He explained that his job was to exploit the weaknesses in his students' skills so they could improve. "But," he said, "you, Baring, have excellent skills. You just don't know it. I can see right through you. You don't believe in yourself enough, and if you don't, you'll never convince anyone else to believe in what you're saying." Myka did eventually learn to trust her skills and herself in court. She did it by believing in what she was saying. That came easier to Myka when she was doing pro bono work for the downtrodden who needed someone on their side. Now she was in corporate law, considered to be the most boring by some in the profession. But Myka needed a change, and this is how she came to apply for a job unlike any she had ever dreamed of. Working at Wells Corp, she soon learned, was going to test all of her legal skills. The company was involved in so many areas that Myka oversaw departments that handled everything from patents to intellectual rights to contracts. The only concern Myka had, once she had accepted the job, was that she would miss doing individual legal representation. But she soon learned that her boss brought her into the courtroom many times. Myka once joked that she didn't have to worry about work piling up when she was on vacation because the single most cause of her work was with her. Myka waited patiently while the speaker before her took the stage. She looked down at the brochure and saw her name embossed in large letters. "How did I get so fortunate as to be here?" she thought to herself, as a smile crept over her face. Myka didn't always know she wanted to be a lawyer, but the telltale signs were there. While her teenage peers held their hairbrushes and lip-synced their favorite songs into the mirror, A young Myka Baring put on her father's Sunday suit jacket, rolled up the sleeves, carried her school bag like a briefcase, and argued for women's rights, equal pay, and the other social causes of her day in an imaginary courtroom. Once, when she was 14, she prepared her defense for the passing of the Family Medical Leave Act before the Supreme Court. In actuality, the bill had been passed, but Myka Baring staged her mock debate with none other than the 9 Supreme Court justices. She put placards with their names on them on her dresser and walked back and forth looking at them as she expounded on the merits of the bill, with her mother calling, then yelling, that dinner was ready. Myka frantically addressed the justices, pleading with them to see the importance of the policy that would afford workers time off for caring for family. Finally, as Myka talked faster and faster, and her mother sent her sister up to get her, she forgot to breathe. Just as Tracy Baring opened the door to her older sibling's room, Myka's lack of oxygen caught up with her, and she fell back onto the bed. Surveying the setup from the doorway, Tracy shook her head. "You're so weird. Supper's ready," was all she said. Myka caught her breath, stood up, accepted the nod of congratulations from the imaginary justice, who bore a resemblance to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. "Thank you," she said softly to her audience, and accepted the congratulatory handshakes from the invisible people in the courtroom. "Don't say that, Tracy," Myka heard her mother whisper as she made her way down the stairs. "All I'm saying is if she didn't act so strange, maybe the kids would like her," her younger sibling offered. That night, many years ago, was a microcosm of the elder sibling's life. Myka rarely had anyone on her side, and she never really felt understood until Helena. Myka never felt so accepted, so adored in all her life. It was easier to feel confident about the reflection of herself in Helena's admiring eyes. But the Brit wouldn't let Myka just ride the wave of her belief in her. She pushed Myka to believe in herself. Life with Helena was amazing on so many levels. This was Myka's first trip away from her fiancé since they became engaged, and she was amazed at how Helena occupied her thoughts throughout the day. She wished Helena could be there, but knew if she were, she'd have a hard time concentrating. Helena was her favorite distraction. A part of Myka also wished her family could see her, even if they wouldn't understand why her talk on corporate transparency was going to receive a standing ovation.